Immersive Reader is an important tool to increase accessibility for students who may have print disabilities or for second language learners. It is important to note that in order to access the built-in Immersive Reader, students need to be using the online version of Word, built into the Office 365 suite.
Hi there! Today I'm going to talk to you about Immersive Reader. So to find out if it's worthwhile and if you should be using it in your distance education classroom. Let's talk about the elephant in the suite first of all. This feature is not meant to be a hosting location for your entire distance education lesson. The fact is, it's a very handy add-on. If your group is already using Microsoft Office 365 suite. It has a more specific use case than some of the transformative technologies that exist for distance education, but I think you'll find that it has a place in the inclusive distance education classroom. Office 365 is not free, nor has it ever been. However, if your organization or school board or institution is already using Office 365, this built-in accessibility feature might be one reason why you might want to choose and create lesson plans using your Microsoft apps versus a competitor's apps. When it comes to technical aspects, in a nutshell, Immersive Reader is already very well integrated. It has very limited technical requirements needed. So just to make sure you know where to go, most people use Office 365 exclusively for their email, but it's important to know that there are so many different apps that you can use, one being Word. Important to remember, if you go to View, you can obviously zoom in, do a bunch of different things, but the Immersive Reader function is built right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And as you can see, it is the Immersive Reader's taken the text, the small amount of text that I had written, and already made it more accessible in the fact that it is much bigger. So if you have any students with print disabilities, this Immersive Reader is a tool that could really help them. I have text preferences, so I can actually increase or decrease my text size. For students who might have a vision impairment, that could be helpful. I can also increase or decrease spacing. Sometimes the spacing helps, especially for students who might have dyslexia or other kind of print disabilities. I can also change my font, and I can also select a color that might be more accessible to me. Go ahead and change the background color. I do have a built-in reader. I can definitely play with my voice settings, so I can slow down or speed up how quickly the person is reading. And I can also choose a female or male voice. If somebody from Office 365 is listening, they could be more inclusive and offer a gender-neutral voice as well, so hopefully that's coming. What's really cool is that I also have built-in image options for anybody who might be learning a second language or is working on some of their vocabulary. So what's really great is that most of my nouns, if I'm going into my reading preferences, I can turn on a picture dictionary. And that's actually using Boardmaker technology, which for anybody who has worked with students creating social stories or working on any kind of vocabulary acquisition, you'll know that Boardmaker is a very popular tool. And so the images might be familiar to students who already have accessibility difficulties. If we're working on the word that says print, it's showing a few examples of what print means. So this is another really great way for a second language learner to pick up vocabulary And there's other hidden features for that second language learner as well. So I can actually choose to translate the print that's there. It's not going to be perfect. However, I think the major advantage to Immersive Reader is just the amount of languages that are available. I can choose from actually 3 different kinds of French. I know that we've had in recent years many students, international students. We know that there's all kinds of movement when it comes to our student population, and it's nice to have this extra option for a student that maybe has not acquired English or French yet, can do some translating. I can translate the document, and you'll see that the Immersive Reader has translated it for me into French and is still explaining my nouns. So student, it's got an example of student there as well. Another interesting thing, first I'm going to go back into my French and just turn it back to English for our purposes today. I can use this as a great way to point out parts of speech to children as well. So if I'm going to go back to my grammar options, okay, I can actually turn my nouns on so that they show up as a different color. So right away, I have students who would recognize the nouns and be able to locate their nouns. Now, if I'm working on adjectives with my students and I'm asking them to turn on adjectives, if I'm specifically asking my student to add more descriptive language in their text, well, right away I can say, okay, well, you have 2 adjectives in your text. Can you increase your adjectives by 3, for example? And I can actually choose to show labels so that it's not just the color coding, but we also have to consider some who may have color blindness, and it actually will indicate whether we're talking about a noun or an adjective. So this is another super feature that's already built in. Another great thing for students who may have dyslexia is that it can actually break down the word by syllable. So if a student is sounding out each syllable at a time, this is an advantage to them. And whatever's happening on their computer screen isn't necessarily what their peers are seeing. And finally, when we talk about reading preferences, if we have a student who needs to focus in on one line at a time, we have that line focus. So it's not only going to focus on the line, okay, it's also going to focus as it reads to me. When it comes to accessibility, in a nutshell, Immersive Reader is designed to make the computer more accessible for many with print disabilities, yet it exists only within certain software. Creating as many opportunities for accessibility within distance education should be every educator's responsibility. And this is one way to break down some barriers for certain students who may have print disabilities or language barriers in your group. All right, let's talk about why this feature is small but mighty. When it comes to accessibility, sometimes we actually don't know as educators who needs the extra support in our classroom. Yes, we often have identified students with disabilities and ones that are able to advocate for themselves and make sure that the supports are being met and in place. This is very important, but it's also important to recognize is that many students deal with barriers in day-to-day lives, and we can't always know who needs what at every moment, especially when we're outside of the regular classroom. We don't get to interact with our students on the same level as we would if we were seeing them face to face. If we offer Immersive Reader to all of our students, then those students who have accessibility issues or barriers that we don't see can receive the support that can make a difference between whether they are fully included in your classroom or not. There are many features and capabilities. When it comes to ease of use, there's a ton of tech support and how-to videos and electronic performance support systems that are available within the Office suite. This tool definitely does not provide hypermediality, but instead it unlocks a barrier of content that may be text heavy. All right, some major pros, and that is the functionality of the Immersive Reader. There is no need for an additional download or app add-on when seeking out the Immersive Reader feature. Despite being exclusive to the Office 365 suite, it's actually extremely well integrated across their tools. When it comes to functionality, in a nutshell, Immersive Reader is very functional, yet has a somewhat narrow use case. Again, I do feel that I need to add a disclaimer here that you cannot take this app along with you when you engage with non-Microsoft platforms. Some more pros. Again, I'm going to repeat myself because I feel strongly about this topic on accessibility. When it comes to distance education, it can be really tough to know whether your students need extra reading support. This tool can be used for students, for all students, whether they have a medical diagnosis or not. In terms of availability, it fits into Universal Design for Learning framework because it makes an option available without necessarily calling attention to a student's disability. When it comes to social presence, in a nutshell, Immersive Reader does not have a strong social presence. However, it does prevent exclusion and reduces the need to disclose a disability. In terms of integrity, again, because the content being created for distance education is already primarily digital content, this tool can maintain the integrity of a student who may have a print disability or needs extra support. Just because I have a disability does not mean that I necessarily want to disclose it to my peers and teachers every single semester. I recommend teaching this tool to all of your students and allow those who benefit from the advantages that it affords to use it. When it comes to teaching presence, in a nutshell, Immersive Reader allows more support with less preparation, but does not support the collection of learning analytics. In terms of transferability, the tool can be used across multiple platforms such as laptops, tablets, mobile phones, and multiple Microsoft apps. Therefore, a student who uses it for email can also use it for PowerPoint, etc. When it comes to mobile design, in a nutshell, Immersive Reader works with numerous different devices, but gaining offline access is and can be complicated. There are some important considerations to keep in mind. In order to give you an honest review, I have to bring those to your attention. The integration, you really can't take this tool with you when you leave the Office suite. So for students who need text-to-speech software everywhere, other programs such as Natural Reader or WordQ are a better solution for the long term. In terms of required equipment, so we know that Office 365 is not free, and any student that has broadband issues could be at a disadvantage in your distance education classroom. In terms of security though, Office 365 and Microsoft in general has a reputation of being more secure than its competitors. However, nothing on the internet is free from threats, unfortunately. Sometimes security is only as good as an individual's password. When it comes to privacy, in a nutshell, Immersive Reader has a lower privacy risk, but no technology involving the internet is ever fully immune. I would put the Immersive Reader in the augmentation category. The text on the online document or within the lessons does remain the same. This integrated tool actually enhances the experience by reading or translating or offering customizations to suit the learner. Remember that the goal isn't always to use the most sophisticated tool. This tool, in my mind, is all about empowerment over sophistication. Overall, I would recommend this tool based on the empowerment and the accessibility that it can bring to your students. You may introduce this tool to an entire distance education class of 40, and perhaps only 5 students will need it on a regular basis. But for those 5 students, it could mean the difference of being fully included or not into your curriculum. When it comes to cognitive presence, Immersive Reader can reduce the cognitive load for learners, but does not provide direct feedback of learner progress.
We hope you will consider introducing this important tool to your distance education classroom.